Am I high or hello?
You're high.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Julian.
And I'm Tom.
We are Team Binge. Thank you for joining us for episode 6 of the Rings of Power. It's called You Done, I believe is how you pronounce it.
I
And
think it's udon noodles.
What is it?
It's udon noodles.
Udon noodles.
I was really
Oh,
hungry when I was watching this one.
Delicious. Delicious. We apologize for the delay. I have been out, and so we are releasing this as soon as we can. But thanks for waiting on us, all of you that did not watch the episode because you wanted to listen to us first. No, that's not how this should work, right?
No,
I
it
don't
should
know. I don't really. Does anyone listen to this? Or is this...
As we've established, you don't really know how to use the technology.
Right.
We've
right.
seen you tweet.
It's weird that we do this. We don't even record it, I guess. This could just be a phone call. I don't know that.
You can plug your microphone.
My kids are always like, why is he in there for an hour and a half talking to no one? And Tara's just got to be like, listen, it keeps him calm. We just let your dad do it. Anyways, we're here for episode 6. Tom, I'm going to start off. I really like this episode. This has probably been my favorite episode, and maybe that says more about me than the show, but I really enjoyed this episode. What about you?
No, I agree. I mean, I think this is kind of the culmination of all the setup they've done for these storylines. And it was fun to see the battles. I think this is one of the first big battle sequences we've had. We had kind of the throwbacks in the pilot episode, but this is our first real taste of action for all of our main characters who we know can kick some butt. So it was fun. I think my second watch of this, I felt a little bit more... I don't know, because I was kind of reading between the lines and some of the story elements and plot pieces I think were rushed very quickly.
Sure.
Some kind of like time jumping about like how long it takes certain people to show up at certain places that just happen to show up at the exact right moment. But I mean, that's just TV. That's just doing it for the drama. But overall, I liked it.
These showrunners were like, hey, you guys hated season 6 of Game of Thrones where we rushed everything? We're going to do it in an episode. No, I enjoyed this. A lot of gore, actually. There was on the second rewatch. I was like, all right, that's. I mean, that guy's bleeding into that guy's mouth. That's a little bit aggressive, but
it's black. It's okay.
Oh,
it's
that's
okay
true.
If it's black blood.
Well, it was black, and then they discover the red. And spoilers. A lot of horses. I think we discovered when I did the Lord of the Rings movie rewatch. I love a good like chorus singing in the background while horses run fast. They'll get me every time. But let's jump into it. And we'll start in the Southlands, where it's very dark. It's very dark. Tom, every Amazon show we've watched, have you found it dark? Have you needed all the lights off in the room? I don't know if it's just my TV or what, but I have to turn off like every light in the house in order to see what's happening on the screen for these. Is it my TV? Tell me it's my TV so I can go get a different one.
It has some outer range vibes for sure, where
right.
Like, these sequences are super, super dark. And I don't know. I feel like once we got to the action sequences, it wasn't as bad, but
right.
Certainly this start was very ominous and dark. But I'm sure that's what they're trying to do with Adar here and make him more menacing. Sure,
they should just have a warning in the front. They're like, hey, if you have any lights on in the house, turn them all off because you won't be able to see anything. We discover Adar is planting these seeds before battle. He says this thing, new life in defiance of death. It sounds cool. It's kind of a cool tradition. You're planting an apple. I mean, this is how Johnny Appleseed got his start. Not many people know this, but he would plant an apple tree, and then he would go kill a bunch of pioneers that were trying to settle the land. Johnny Appleseed, mass murder, one of the first mass murderers, if I recall right. And
that's part of the tale you don't hear in elementary school.
Right. That's what they don't want you to hear about. Johnny Appleseed, the killer. But
wow.
So did we already know that Adar was an elf? Did we already know that he came from that culture? Was that already... I've been on vacation, Tom. Tell me what I missed.
I think we kind of established that they did like that close-up shot when we first meet him of his ears and kind of, showing that he probably has some elf lineage. I think he also talks to Arondir and they have a little back and forth about like, oh, you grew up by this river or lake or something like that. So I think we've established that, but don't know the details of his background.
Okay. So you assume when you look at someone that their physical features tell you who they are culturally. See, I mean, this is just the difference between you and I. I don't see ears. I don't see ears. I don't make assumptions based on the shape of someone's ears, what type of race they are, Tom. Because
I mean, technically, orcs have pointy ears as well, but
see?
I guess maybe
You never know.
maybe like, I'm not gonna jump it anymore.
I like
Traps
to
here.
let them tell me what they are, and I don't ask. I just assume everyone's human because human's the best. Wait, no, that shouldn't be right. Anyways,
Brought it right back around.
And I'm bad again. All right. This is the orcs just before they attack. I feel like something the show is doing in kind of a cool way that I don't think I realized. I think we talked about it a little bit on another pod. Is like they are trying to make the orcs less of like a faceless, like just evil. Mm-hmm. They're trying to like point out, hey, these guys, they've got souls too. They're brothers and sisters. Like this is like, hey, orcs are misrepresented in this story. And I was like, all right, I don't have a lot of sympathy for them because they are murderous orcs, but I see what you're doing, show. Like, I understand. And so, yeah, we find out that there are lady orcs, too, because in his speech he says brothers and sisters. And, I mean, you've got to get them down to their loincloths in order to figure out what's what. But there are brothers and sister orcs, apparently.
Yeah, I do like what they do here. I mean, there's only so much you can do to try to, like, I don't know, demystify them because we don't.
Were you going to say
like,
humanize, Tom?
From them.
Were you going to say humanize?
That's what I realized.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
There you go. You're doing it again.
But yeah, because we're not like following one of the orcs and seeing like how he has a family and he's raising a young little baby orc. That would probably be a little bit more helpful because they still are the epitome of evil. But yeah, they're trying. I appreciate the effort.
There wasn't a scene where the orc pulls out a locket and he's like, "This is my baby girl. She was born after we left on this murderous campaign to kill all these humans. I can't wait to get home to see her." And all the other orcs are like, "Oh, that guy's not going to make it. He just did the one thing you're not supposed to do." But there's a lot of chanting. A lot of chanting going on here.
Yeah, they do the chant of the Nampot, which, of course, I had to look it up. I didn't really get it in the first watch, but second watch, having subtitles. So this apparently means death in old
the black
language, whatever it is, the black language.
The black language.
Which I thought was cool because it kind of does the, I think, what was it, Return of the King, when all the horses or whatever, they're doing their big ride to kind of help save everybody at Minas Tirith, I think it is. They kind of do that same, they don't chant it, but they scream like death as like kind of their war cry before they go in. So you kind of have these orcs doing the same thing. It's pretty cool.
It was so good. Theoden's speech, and then they all scream death and they charge. And there was one guy in the crowd that was like, Nampat! And then they all looked at him and he was like,
what?
I mean, death, yeah, I'm on your guys' side. Someone slipped. We've got a spy in our midst. It turns out, so then they all go towards the tower, and it turns out the tower is a trap. And I don't know. I don't know if we're going to pull this stuff apart, much like the tower that falls, but yeah, it's a trap.
Yeah, I feel like you had a cue Admiral Akbar right here. It's a trap.
Aaron,
the second you walk into this tower and there's nobody there, like you have to like, and he even says, I think in a second, like, "Oh, I smell him. Like the other elf is here." Like maybe you would take defensive positions and not just have your guys all willy-nilly running around, but I don't know, it was still fun.
These guys are real casual. They're like, "Oh, we were coming to a battle, but since no one's here, we're just going to hang out, relax a little bit." And that's when they find Arondir. He starts shooting people. He's doing some cool stuff. And he shoots a rope that is holding a tower up? Is this OSHA regulation? What's happening here?
Only the best towers are held up by rocks. Or by ropes, excuse me. It does seem like maybe it was part of the initial, like, hey, let's keep this tower up with some ropes. But after a while, you would hope that the mortar hardens, or I don't know how towers work.
It's like the government came in and condemned the tower. They were like, listen, this is inhabitable, so we're going to wrap it with some ropes. And then these people were like, okay, if we shoot those ropes, it will collapse on them. And I do feel like you mentioned something in an episode before this they all like dramatically turn and look at the tower. And that was supposed to foreshadow that they were going to collapse the tower on these guys, but that was not a great foreshadowing because this came as a complete surprise to me. But maybe I'm just an idiot, which is very likely.
I think I don't even know if I mentioned that, but I made what?
You agree with that I'm an idiot?
Like, well, of course. I would never not agree with you. Well, I didn't know you were actually calling yourself an idiot. In that case, I don't agree, man. You're a good person.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for...
But yeah, when they looked up at the tower, like, these are the kind of sequences, I think we get it a little bit later, which about saying that this sword or hilt is a key, like looking up at the tower, I feel like is a similar kind of thing. You don't need to do it. Like, you don't need to tell us this thing's a key. You don't need to tell us that...
the tower's going to be collapsed.
Look up at the tower and kind of make something. Like, it would be cooler if it was just done in the moment, kind of a deal. But I don't know. It's just where they chose to play their hand here.
Yeah, I'm glad that they killed all of the orcs with the tower that collapsed, but it turns out later on they don't kill seemingly anyone. I don't know. It's like you see this scene where all the rocks collapse and all the torches go out, which is a cool scene because all the people are down in the town like cheering. Which these people cheer so quickly at like the wrong times. like maybe act like you've been there before. Act like you've defeated an orc army before. You don't have to cheer right away. Be little humility in these town folk. But then I was like, all right, so they collapse the tower. They seemingly kill all of the orcs, which they don't because the orcs come back. And their game plan was this tower that is made for defense, that has like one causeway and a bunch of walls. We're going to destroy that to kill these guys so that we can defend this wood town that's liable to catch fire at any moment. I did not understand. And also, why didn't they just leave? You know, you collapse that tower, you know what I'm doing? I'm probably going to throw my backpack on and start walking.
And hoof it?
Start walking.
I mean, my only thing to make justification for this is like it's a numbers game, so they use this tower collapsing to be able to dwindle their numbers, because we never really get a sense for how many orcs there are. We always kind of see the same like 4 or 5 kind of lieutenant orcs, the ones that have all the dope makeup. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like, it didn't necessarily seem to make a whole lot of logical sense, especially what kind of happens later with the town. But cool sequence.
Scene.
And I loved being able to get some Arendir like just flipping around and shutting the door behind him, and all that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was fun to watch. It was fun to watch all of them die, and it was fun to watch the one guy like talk to Adar. He's like, "Hey, we need to get to safety," and Adar just stares at the tower as it collapses. I think he even moved that guy to get crushed. He's like, "No, you stand right here," and then a big block fell on him.
Well, no, man, that's the one dude. That's like the
Waldrig.
Guy.
That's Waldrig. Yeah, I guess he does. He does last, doesn't he? It's twist, that M. Night Shyamalan twist at the end. We're then in the Sundering Sea. The Numenor ships are sailing. Isildur and Galadriel get to meet. And Galadriel does this like humble brag about her vision. She's like, "Oh, well, I've been staring at land for at least an hour. But your weak human eyes, you'll be able to see it in a couple of minutes." And
that was great.
She asks him what his rank is, and he's like, "Stable sweep." And I was like, I don't know if that's a rank. You're probably like, you're not like, "Oh, I enlisted, I signed papers," and they're like, "Oh, what'd you sign up as?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to be stable sweep, but then after 2 years, I'll probably get promoted to stable sweep first class. And that comes with a pay bump and some other things." I appreciate what they're doing here, but not a rank. He should have been like, "I'm a private, but my specialty is horse poop." That's what he should have said.
Yeah, to me, this is just, again, more like silly, lazy writing. And like, I think they make it seem like the audience is like too dumb and doesn't understand that. So when this kind of comes out, it is kind of silly, laughable.
Yeah. But I do plan on, after we hang up this, calling the Oos Army recruiter in order to ask if I could be a stable sweep and seeing what that person says. They're like, "Well, if you can do this many push-ups, you can be a stable sweep. Those jobs are really hard to come by." So I may be gone for the next 3 to 4 years, Tom, after this podcast.
Wow. Okay. Best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. we find out that Isildur like really wanted to get away from Numenor because it wasn't real Numenor. Like that's where he. I guess this is his
he does
thing.
this back and forth. Yeah, he kind of says like you never knew if it even was Numenor. So like the idea I think is he doesn't have like the hatred towards elves as seemingly the rest of Numenor does.
Sure.
And he wanted to kind of go back to the old school West Numenor, which we never really figured out what that meant. But yeah, it was a touching-ish moment between her and Galadriel, or him and Galadriel, to be able to kind of establish some sort of rapport.
Sure. And then broken up by Elendil, who's like soldier, and which is that's not even his rank. He should have called him stable sweep, but whatever. Elendil like interrupts, and Galadriel's like, "Hey, whatever happened to that guy's mom? Is she still in the picture? Are you single? That's Galadriel asking Elendil, like, is he open to a stepmother? And Elendil is like, all my life I sailed looking towards the horizon, and now the sun's setting. I don't know. He gives this long answer about directions and where the sun sets, and then he's like, "Oh, she drowned." And I was like, "Oh, that was a normal conversation that a person would have. They would like get real deep
and then just
about."
walks away.
Yeah. And if I was Galadriel, I'd be like, "I think Elendil might have murdered Isildur's mom. There might have been a murder here."
But I have a question. Their motto is the sea is always right, and the sea murdered his wife.
Sure.
So I don't know here, man.
Yeah. It sounds like you could get away with a lot of murders if you're just like, "Hey, they drowned. The sea,
sea is always right.
Always right. Sorry."
So they did. It's their defense in court. It's like instead of pleading the fifth, you can just say sea is always right.
And the prosecutor's like, "Dang it. Their cases, they're gonna get off. It's a open, shut case." Anyways, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a maritime lawyer. Not like Jareth Cute Story.
You focus in bird law.
That's right. There's a quick conversation between Queen Muriel and Elendil, and Queen's like, "Hey, tell all the ships to make, the greatest haste." And I was like, aren't they all sailing together? Don't you want to sail at the same speed? I mean, what if the Nina's much faster than the Pinta? Or the Pita? I don't remember. And it's like, this is where we get it's going to take us a day to get here, and then it's a day's ride to here, into the Southlands. Do they know about the attack that the orcs are doing on this one tower in town? Was that communicated? Did I miss a carrier pigeon? Did I miss one of those large Tolkien eagles? Or the butterfly moth thing that Gandalf whispers to? Like, did I miss something here? These guys seem to know exactly where they're going.
Yeah, all they know, or that we've been told that they know, is that there's like orcs like running around in the Southlands. They don't know the type of dire situation they're in. And again, like I'm not going to do the deep dive into the timing, but it doesn't seem accurate in terms of like how long it's going to take them, when they set sail, what the events that are going on the other side. But I don't know. It is what it is. Like, they're sailing to come save them at a certain point in the battle. Like, it's just kind of a trope. I do like where this ends, though, where you have like Muriel kind of like using the world's most insignificant magnifying glass that she just kind of hovers over the map, so it becomes like 0.5 zoomed in, but it kind of hovers over this ominous, doomy-looking mountain, which is interesting. It kind of comes into play here in a bit.
Sure. Well, it feels like you might be shaming her for not having a strong prescription. That she has
She had elf eyes.
Well, Tom, they can't all get LASIK, all right, buddy? Anyways, we're in the Southlands. Arondir is trying to beat the hilt with a hammer, and very quickly he's like, "This is beyond our skill to destroy." And I was like, that's a pretty like arrogant thing to say. You hit it with a hammer a couple of times, and then you're like, this is beyond all of our skills to destroy. And it's like the blacksmith's like, "Hey, do you want me to take a shot at?" And they're just like, "No, I already said it. It is beyond all of our skills to destroy." And you're like, okay, maybe let someone else that's a bit stronger or knows metalworking a shot. But whatever. He's like, I'm going to go hide this hilt. Bronwyn immediately like, hey, where are you going to hide it? And he's like, I don't know if you understand what hiding something means, but I'm going to go hide it and no one needs to know. And then the camera like shifts over and we see Theoden. Wow.
He wishes.
Yeah, I wish. Theo staring at them. And you're like, okay, he's going to know where the hilt goes. But,
Yep. I'm going to say here, the eventual hiding place he picks is very dumb. Like, go find like a rock or a tree or somewhere specific, not like under one plank under the inn where everybody's
under the tavern where everyone's going to be. I didn't even think of that. I'll get to my wife made a great point later on in the episode that I'll touch on with the hiding spot. But this is then where Arondir gives the battle plan. He tells everyone that they're going to live to see another sunrise if they just do their job. He's not a great liar, but maybe he believes it. I don't know.
Well, he screams at everybody like multiple times, like, "Do you believe it?" Which I like. That's a cool, like, rousing speech way to end it, and everybody kind of like eventually goes, "Yes, we do." And I think he'd make Ted Lasso proud.
Yeah, he would.
If you actually look in the background when they're in the inn, there's actually a little "believe" sign that's over the door.
Right, but it's in the black language of Mordor, so we're not allowed to say it out loud. It's like Mahjong is what it says.
wait, Mahjong?
Oh, Mahjong. Sorry, I've got Mahjong on the brain. I just came from my Saturday morning Mahjong tournament. I love a battle plan scene. It's great. It's like the show's like, hey, listen, this is what you can expect to happen. Like, this is what you're rooting for. This is our battle plan. It's always fun. They happen in every war movie, possibly. The best one is Saving Private Ryan, which I haven't watched in a while. I think I'm at a point in my life where I can give it a go again without being super sad. But anyways, I love a good battle plan scene, and the only thing that was missing is like a really cool model that they brief over, like a sand table where they can move all the
like
pieces.
A stick to point at the mountains.
Yeah, and they're like, this apple is you, and this wooden horse that I carved is those guys. And they're like, it looks like a dog. And he's like, I didn't have a lot of time to carve it, okay? We got a battle coming. The best one, actually, now that I think about it, is in Con Air, where John Malkovich does the battle plan of that airstrip in Vegas. Do you remember this scene at all?
Vaguely, yes.
All these convicts are waiting for the feds to come and get him, and he has this like elaborate battle map that he has laid out in the sand to show them how they're going to defeat the feds. Anyways, after my Mahjong championship, I'm gonna go watch Con Air. Theo asks Bronwyn, he's like, hey, I'm old enough to fight. What are you gonna have me do? And she's like, oh, you have a really important job. You're gonna be in the tavern with all the old people, and here is a sharpened stick. Good luck. And he does this thing where he's like, hey, when I was a baby, you used to tell me something to comfort me. And she gives this really long, like, I didn't even write it down. It was so long. And I was like, no kid has the attention span to listen to that. Like, you did not say that to him when he was a kid. It's supposed to be a touching moment, but I was like, my kids have the attention span of, 3 words, which is, hey, stop being so scared. Stop being so scared. That's 4 words. I would have lost him by the time I got to scared. Anyways.
We do get, I think what she says, I'm with you, it's a bit long and it's kind of poetic.
Sure.
But I do think they're doing more of the light and shadow talk, which I think echoes what Galadriel and her brother were talking about in the pilot episode. So I think we're kind of getting more of that and then kind of tying it back in, which I think is cool.
Every once in a while, it's like one guy who's like a fan of Tolkien on the writer staff is like, listen, can I write this part? Because all the other dialogue is, it's not, we'll just say it's not great, but then it's like, hey, call, they like make fun of him. He's like, call Tolkien Jr. over there. He can write this little part. And he writes something very beautifully. It's typically like Elendil gets to deliver it, Galadriel gets to deliver it, Bronwyn gets to deliver this one. And then they're like, all right, guy, go away. We're going to do all this other cool dialogue. But yeah. Anyways, Arondir talks to Bronwyn about seed planting. And Bronwyn seems to already know about this. She knows the words. She's like, new life in defiance of death. I was like, did she just come up with that off the top of her head? Or does she know this? What's going on here?
I mean, they've been living close to elves for a long time, and obviously it's close with Arondir, so maybe this was something that she had picked up at some point. But you figure if anybody would have told her, it would have been Arondir, and he's telling her this story like it's the first time she's ever heard it. But yeah.
Yeah, she says the exact same words. They, very lovely moment, they touch a tree together, and he tells her that he's going to plant a seed in her in a new garden. And this just made me, and he's like, oh, by the way, Theo can come too. I'll be his stepdad. I'll take him to Peter Piper every couple weekends. But he can't call me dad. Anyways, eventually he can call me dad. Not at first. It's going to be weird. But this made me just think of the Office scene where Dwight takes Ryan out to haze him. And he's like, and soon I will plant my seed in you. And Ryan's like, you don't know what you're saying. It's such a great line. Anyways, a lot of seed planting talk.
Yeah, it kind of ends with, I was going to call her Arwen, but it's Bronwyn kind of looking at him and saying like, oh, you promise, kind of a thing, which I think is kind of a silly thing to ask somebody to promise when like you're getting ready to go into battle. You can't promise this. This made me think of Team America, where he's like, if you promise me you will never die, I will make sweet love to you right now. And he stares at camera, I will not die.
I'm with you. Maybe this is just something as you like. So there are certain things you're supposed to say, like platitudes to people. And as I've gotten older, I have a harder and harder time, like, saying platitudes. Like, when, I don't know. I don't have a great example that's not going to get me in trouble. But it's like, if you, I don't know. I just have a tough time, like, not. Like, it feels like lying to me when you're like, oh, yeah, it's going to work out. And really, you want to be like, it probably won't work out, but, this is probably not what I'm supposed to say in this moment. I don't know what I'm trying to get at. But if I was him, I would have been like, listen, I don't know if you're going to live or die. I mean, it's a battle. You could get shot with 2 arrows, but it seems like you only get shot with 1. I don't know. Anyways, the orcs show up. I guess they all survived from the tower collapsing. I wish the people would have run. Instead, we're going to fight in this little Alamo of a town. But
I guess the idea is like they're finally fighting for their land, I guess. Like, didn't they have a speech at some point that Bronwyn gave about like fighting for their lands and everything? So I guess that's the reason, but I'm with you. They were very outnumbered. Without the help of the Numenorians that kind of come toward the end, they would have been toast.
Sure. You're talking about the speech where Bronwyn was like, hey, let's all stay and fight. And everyone's like, yeah. And Waldrick was like, hey, how about we live? And everyone's like, oh, yeah, that sounds good too. Let's do that. And then half the people left. Yeah, that was a great speech. We then get everyone like waiting for the orcs to come down, and then they come down and they've all got torches, and it's kind of cool. Once again, turn all the lights off in your house because it gets dark again. Bronwyn has trouble with the flint to light the cart on fire, and this direct result of getting her partner killed. Her partner did not stand a chance. Bronwyn's like, I'm going off book. I'm going to try and cut this orc that showed up over here with a torch. And both people get their throats cut, which was kind of sad. But Bronwyn doesn't seem all that torn up about it. She, like, takes the torch, throws it on the cart, looks down at the lady's body, and is like, hey, sorry, and then walks off. She doesn't even say sorry.
Well, thankfully, none of the orcs saw this little mini battle going on, clashing of swords and people getting their throats slit. But no biggie.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I wanted to mention? You brought up the speech about like fighting for our lands when Arondir is giving his speech about like, hey, we can hold this town, and he's doing the battle plan. He's like, I've seen smaller forces hold off bigger forces. It can be done. Someone in the crowd should have been like, when? Give us an example. And he would have been like,
site specifics.
Well, yeah. What date and year, please, and who, and what were you doing there? And he could be like, oh, well, 100 years ago, I was involved in a battle. There were 5 of us. There were 400 of them. We all won. And they'd be like, okay, we believe you. And then the next scene is like, I made that up. That wasn't even, I
totally bought it.
I can't believe they bought it. They're all going to die. What a bunch of idiots. Look at me. I'm hang gliding. I'm dead. Anyways. Okay, so the orcs then attack, and this is what drove me crazy on the second watch, because I knew the reveal that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Every time they show an orc dying, it's like clearly an orc. Like, there are orcs in this town, there are orcs fighting, there are orcs shooting arrows. I got it. Some of them have like helmets on, but then they do this reveal later on where it's like, oh, it was the other villagers that left in armor, and like everyone's upset because every body on the ground seems to be human. That is not how this, like, I did not like this. Like, the show tried to do some chicanery here, and no, these were orcs. Maybe there were like 1 or 2 humans, but every time they look at a body later on, it's a human. Did you get what I mean? You picking one up? I'm putting down. Do you see the human under the orc mask that I'm trying to reveal here?
I am. I was the same way with my second watch. I'm like, it just kind of seemed cheap. The only thing I could kind of pick up were like some of the deaths, like the noises that they make, like the throws as they're getting stabbed or whatever. Like some sounded more orc-ish and some sounded more human-ish. But yeah, none of the people, like, it was a bit silly. And we'll get to it here in a second when we actually talk about the reveal, but I think they could have done this a lot better.
Right, because on the second watch, what's going to happen. So when I watched it the second time, I was kind of paying attention. I was like, oh, did I just miss, like, maybe they were all masked? But no, the show, like, there are a lot of orcs dying very clearly. To your point, it is weird that one guy gets shot with an arrow, and he's like, human, and then he falls over, and then that one orc gets shot, and that orc goes, orc, and falls over. So I guess they kind of gave it away a little bit with their death groans.
The subtitles helped.
Human, and they're like, what did you say, guy that just got? And they're like, oh, nothing, it's just an orc. He doesn't know what he's saying. Arondir fights a big bad, which is, I don't know, I enjoyed this fight. It's one of those ones where he bumps into the guy and he's at like stomach height, and then he like does the long look up. And then they get into a fist fight, I guess.
Like Indiana Jones style, like, where he stares up. Yeah. But like he does like the beginning of the fight, it's kind of like a breakdance fight where he's like popping off of walls and doing cool flips. It was pretty cool.
Yep, it's filmed cool. It looks great. It would have been better had it been like that Indiana Jones fight where the guy's like doing all the sword tricks and then he just pulls out his pistol and shoots him. That would have been fun. Instead, we get some pretty gross eye stuff where this guy gets this orc who has a family and probably he's like, I can't wait to see my new baby girl orc with my right eye. This is my favorite eye. I can't wait for it. Eye. Oh, his left eye. I can't wait for my fatherly left eye to stare at my new daughter for the first time, and then stab. Pretty gross. The black, and I guess this is what they were doing. They were trying to like really like let us know black blood is orcs, red blood is humans, and it seemed unnecessary. But on the second watch, I was like, they really want me to know all this black blood is going into Arondir's mouth, and now he probably has COVID because that's how you get it. If you're listening to this and you don't know what COVID is, God bless you. Go look it up. I hope it doesn't exist when you listen to it. But Bronwyn kills this guy, stabs him through the throat, even though logistically she is much shorter than him and would not be able to strike downward through his throat. But I don't know. That's a silly thing to be bothered by, but I was.
There's a little crate on the bottom, a little step stool.
Oh, she gets off a step stool. It's got wheels on it. You see
she could tell that Arondir can hold that little piece of shiver of wood, half an inch from his eye for at least 10, 15 seconds. So she's like, oh, okay, let me go ahead and get this step stool.
Yeah, she pushed it over. She's like, oh, this one's not tall enough. She went and got a different one, swapped it out. everyone cheers because they've won, because that's what happens right after a battle. You're not like upset that your friends died or anything. You're just like, yeah, we won, clearly. No one's wounded on the ground. You're either dead or alive. Like, that's what well, I guess there was an orc that talked that was wounded, but all the other, like, every human that's killed in this, nope, no wounded. They're not like, hey, we used to be neighbors. You took off my leg. It's but a flesh wound. Nope.
I was
all
like
dead.
rabbling in the crowd. I was rabble number 3.
I'm not dead yet. Yeah, red is human blood, not black. They were all people. Not really. Maybe a couple. I don't know. Why are they sad? That's the other thing. Like, these guys betrayed them, and then they attacked the village. Even if they were all humans, I'd be like, they were coming to kill us. I don't feel bad about this.
I don't know. They're not far removed from their, like, I don't know. Like, I guess you could say, like, they're still their neighbors, they're still their friends, and that kind of thing. Like, sure, they made the decision to bend the knee, but I think there's some people that didn't make the decision to bend the knee and fight that might have thought both ways. So, but my go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I'd kill the human people harder than I'd kill the orcs. Because I'd be like, you were on our team, you abandoned us, and now you're coming back to attack us?
To attack.
That's worse.
Fair.
You're like, I would be more upset with those guys. I'd be like, these orcs, I don't know. But that's just me. I don't see different races, Tom. You know, I don't see the difference between humans and orcs. I'm just a guy, you know, whatever they want to be. I don't know. I'm very accepting of orcs and humans, but I'd kill those humans harder because they betrayed us.
Yeah,
Did I bring it back around? Did I get there?
Now, you always do, my friend. But so here's my big gripe, and I feel like this would have been so easy to do when they eventually, like, okay, he puts his hand in, it's red blood, okay, we figure out it's a human, and he does that reveal where he yanks his mask off, and he goes straight to his face, and we're supposed, like, what I thought is like, oh, this is somebody I'm supposed to know exactly who this is. Like, this could have been a perfect opportunity to be like that Rowan character or whatever that they kind of killed in the other episode. Have it be somebody recognizable. So you take off the mask, we're like, oh, that's who that is. I didn't know what they were trying to do until 10, 15 seconds later when they kind of do this exposition and say, oh, that's who we're killing. We're killing bad guys. Like, it was sillily shot. I think it could have been cooler. Yep,
I agree. And, like, everyone all of a sudden is making the same conclusion. They're all pulling off masks and like they're all like, oh no, and then they cut to one guy and he's like, oh no, I smashed the tomato that was in my pocket during the battle. And they're like, hey, we got bigger things going on over here. And he's like, but it's my tomato. Anyways, they weren't fighting their own, they were fighting orcs, but the movie tried to I don't know, maybe these people are shapeshifters. Who knows? Maybe that's what we just discovered. Those people could shift into orcs, and now they become humans once you kill them. Just like that werewolf that Dwight killed on his property that turned into a dog by the time he got to it. There's your second Office reference for those of you playing bingo. You're welcome. All right.
But like you mentioned, this scene kind of like ends, or like one of the orcs is kind of still alive, and he kind of makes a thing about like, oh, we're coming to get you kind of a thing, and the humans had to pay the blood price or whatever. And then that's where we start to get some arrows kind of shot in. So like, this is where I felt like you got to cue Legolas. It's like, diversion.
Yes. We need Orlando to look off in the distance and tell us what's happening. I agree. That would have been great. Instead, they just get attacked by arrows. I thought Bronwyn got shot twice, but then they only deal with one arrow. I think maybe it was just so dark. I do like that they shot her. You know, this is not a show that seems like it's going to, not that they do kill her, but they damage a main character. I appreciate that. Ups the stakes a little bit. And this leads me to the biggest question of the podcast. Tom, talk to us about arrow wound treatment. Is that the same as bowstring wound treatment? You're the one that I
don't know.
You're the only person I know that's been wounded more by bow and arrow than anyone else. So talk to me about this.
Listen, it's not the arrow that gets you. It's the string. It's the string. People don't know this, but the string is the most dangerous part of a bow and arrow.
Statistically, more people each year are wounded by the string of a bow than the arrow of a bow. That's probably not a lie.
This is how I hunt. I capture an animal, I tackle it, and then I put it by my bow, and I just fling the bowstring.
You give it your bow. You're like, hey, deer, use this. And then it's like, okay. And then it slaps itself with the string, and then it's down. Good for you, Tom. Good for you. You're a good sport. We go from here, speaking of wounds, we go to Old Triage Tavern, where everyone is dealing with the wounded, and the orcs are marching in. I guess more orcs are marching in to really finish them off.
I appreciate them taking their time so we can get this good triage scene.
Yeah. We get the... listen, I don't want to call it lazy writing, but it's like, hey, I've seen every, like, war or battle movie. We're going to have to bite on something. We're going to have to force an unwilling participant to help dress the wound, and we're going to do some cauterization, because all of those things are like... Hey, I don't know. Maybe that's just what you have to do with every... Tom, wounds with arrows. When you slapped your wrist, we did... That's funny. We did make you bite on something, and we got
that was just when I applied the ice. The ice was so cold, I had to bite on something.
I was like, I told my son, I was like, hey, grab that burning log. And you were like, I don't think... I mean, it's just a bruise. I don't think... And we're going to cauterize it. And then my son shoved that burning log into your arm, and I think made it worse, but you're okay now, right?
Yeah. I got a cool scar.
And you can't use that arm, but it's all right. That's
it kind of
something.
looks like the shape of a mountain.
Oh, no. You're Sauron. We don't know who anyone is, but you're Sauron. Tale as old as time, this triage.
So that's what that English lady was singing about in Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
Okay. Cauterizing wounds.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And then she went out and solved murders. Here's what they should have done. They should have grabbed that bow, because he's got to like break the end of the arrow and pull it through her. What they should have just done is grab the bow, put that arrow on the bow, and shot it the rest of the way through her. That was what I was thinking would have worked. But once
That's
again,
an approach.
You're the expert. The orcs are outside. We cut back to that cool horror movie element where the lady's like staring out the window and one flashes across. And I was like, oh, it's those aliens from Signs. My wife mentioned at this point during, which I did not catch this, the blood is like dripping. They do a lot of blood dripping, and it's onto the like floorboards or through the floorboards. And she's like, oh, the blood is going to the hilt that he hit under the floor. And I was like, I did that thing where you're like, oh, yeah, good idea. And I was like, that's not what's happening right now. You're not right. But she was right, because the hilt was buried under the floor, and I was wrong.
No, that's brilliant. I think it would have been cool. Like, that's a very good catch. I feel like if a little bit of like smoke maybe would have like popped up from the thing, that would have been kind of cool too. Like the blade is starting to grow or whatever.
Right.
But that's a fantastic observation. 3 internet points for Tara.
Or the blood like kind of moved like not naturally, like it was kind of being sucked into a different direction. I don't think they did any of that, but maybe she watched it before we watched it together. Maybe. I don't know. That's probably... Her dishonesty is probably more likely than her just guessing at that, right? Is that...
Well, if she was dishonest, then she gets 5 internet points.
Okay. Yeah, she can have all the internet points. She's a smart lady. All right. Adar's back, baby. He's walking through the fiery town. This actor does this part really well. He looks great. Like, and there's more Nampat, death. Yeah.
Nampat. Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm going to get Nampat tattooed on my neck.
This is where you get that very quick cut to kind of help reminding us that the help is coming, right?
Oh, yeah. This is the Numenor cavalry charge. I think this is kind of what you were talking about, time jumps, right? Because these guys would have had to land boats, unload all their stuff, separate the black horses from the one white horse, everyone get on said horses, and then ride at full gallop for a day, which is not how horses work. It would have been funnier if the next scene they would have just been all on their all walking, and they're like, man, I can't believe all those horses died because we tried to gallop them for a day straight. And then Galadriel's on her white horse, because I'm sure that horse is like magical. But yeah, no, they galloped those horses for a long time, and they probably would have died. Spoilers for horse people. Sorry if that triggers you.
Horse people.
Adar enters the tavern. Everyone, like, they grab all the people, and they've got, like, swords to their throats, and they're all threatening them. And I wanted to know, how do the orcs know which non-main character to kill? Because he doesn't really, like, direct them. It's just, like, all of a sudden one orc slowly stabs that one gentleman who's super surprised to have a sword run through him. And that orc ran that sword through him, like, kind of a slow, kind of a mean way. It was like the guy had to watch it, like, very slowly happen. And, like, my thought was, what if an orc gets it wrong? Like, the orc stabs, I don't know, Arendir immediately, or Theo immediately. Like, and then Adar's got to be like, no, not that guy. He knows where the hilt is. I told you, when we walk in the tavern, if I wink with my left eye, it's kill that person. If I wiggle my nose, it's kill that guy. Like, there's so much verbal communication happening that I don't know. Do these orcs read minds? Tom, explain it to me.
Well,
the floor is yours.
There are only 3 characters that we really know of the human race here. Like, it's Arendir, it's Bronwyn, it's Theo. Like, everybody else is just ancillary characters. There's nobody else that they're kind of like,
sure,
lieutenants or helping them out, I guess. But, like, when Adar says, like, yep, kill the other ones, boom, immediately orcs kill. When he says, like, oh, kill the Bronwyn who's on the table, for some reason the orcs take their sweet time, don't really do it. They have to kind of wait and, like, do it long. So, like, again, kind of silly. But, it's the catalyst for Theo to say, listen, didn't really care much about those other people dying, but hey, don't you be killing my mom.
Yeah.
Here's the hilt.
Yeah. That guy on the ground, he's got that sword in his stomach. He's like, why didn't you tell him earlier? What about me? He's like, I gave you that apple, and then I was going to give you the tomato in my pocket, but it got smashed. Anyways, yeah, this happens in movies all the time where I'm just like, how do the bad guys know which one to kill and which one not to kill? But You're right. Theo gives up the hilt because he doesn't want his mom to get decapitated, her kappa from her detated. That's number 3. For those of you keeping score.
But then Adar leaves. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Bronwyn looks great on that table. She's like, she looks great. She's like kind of laid out. She's covered in blood. She's almost like stretching her neck out so that's like, hey, if you're going to cut it off, make sure you don't like hit one of my cheekbones, which are so lovely. I don't know. I thought she looked great in that scene.
Yeah, after being on her deathbed and like not moving for a good 20 seconds, she's doing great now. Got all that pink back in her face. Looks great.
Looks lovely.
But as the scene ends, you get Adar like walking out with the hilt, and I didn't catch this probably the first time around, but this is like knowing what the reveal is Ladar with Adar. He tells Waldreg.
Oh man! All right, everything has to rhyme with a character's name from now on. Yeah. Good luck, those of you that are going to listen to us for the next hour.
But he tells Waldreg that he has a task for him, which we know later is him giving him the hilt and then him going away. And then him creating some sort of diversion hilt bag thing that is being chased for the rest of the scene.
Yep. I didn't catch that either. I don't even think I got it on the second watch. I was just like, oh, more nonverbal communication between those. Or it just happened off camera. I don't know. Numenor shows up at a dead gallop. Everyone in the battle seems to know what's happening. They're like, oh, this village is being attacked by orcs. Like, everyone's in the tavern. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Isildur's friends, they fight orcs. What are these guys' names? It's like Valandir and Otamino. Otamino sounds like a character out of Romeo and Juliet. Like, every time they say his name, I'm like, that's not a character from this world.
Hey, but like, what's his face? He listened to Galadriel's training, right? He did the stab, twist, and gut.
Stab, twist, and gut. So good. So good. These guys went from flunkies for the Sea Org, and now they're like battle-hardened warriors. I don't know. It seemed real quick, but I don't live in this world, so it doesn't matter. I did think it was interesting that Queen Mira was like watching the battle, and she's like, all right, Isildur, you can go in there now too. Don't die. And he's the only one out of her, like, I don't know, entourage that's on that hill. Yeah. He's like, Yay! Isildur would have been. What if he's like, well, it looks like they kind of have it under control. I'll just hang up here. Oh, it looks like your horse might need to go. I'll hang out and I'll help with that. I don't know.
What about the horse poop, man? You need like a good queen horse pooper. But it does need to be said. The queen looks fantastic with her sweet little battle helmet kind of thing, like the sun and her armor. She looks dope.
They all look great. They all look like they rode straight from Atlantis to this world, and I waited for Aquaman to show up at any moment because all their armor looks like scales, but that would make sense if they're like a seafaring people. Anyways, Elendil gets saved by Halbrand. They handsomely nod at each other, wink, I don't know. Maybe they bump fists, bump groins, I don't know. Adar runs with the hilt. There's a great horse chase scene. And I have decided that Halbrand and Galadriel will be called Hallandriel. And they chase him as a team. And I will be saying Hallandriel unironically and without stumbling over it for the rest of the podcast when referring to the two of them.
I mean, by the way, fantastically done. But I feel like it's Haladriel. I think you were adding an N in there. We don't need an N.
Okay.
Galadriel.
You
nailed it.
I don't think it's fair that you've taken what was rightfully mine, which is the name I made up, and said it better. That's unfair.
Listen, I just improve on your ideas. This is what good friends do.
Oh, I would.
But I do appreciate
thought of us more as acquaintances, but that's fine. Go ahead. I interrupted.
Tom,
was it? Is it Tom? Tomas?
Yeah.
Timothy?
Timothy.
Can I call you Timothy?
I'm going to call you Tom.
That's 4, baby.
That's 4. But I do appreciate that Galadriel uses a mushroom on her horse to make the horse go faster.
What?
She gives a little prayer. She gives the horse a mushroom a la Mario Kart, and then the horse goes faster.
Oh,
you don't remember this?
No, I missed this completely.
So
what?
She's running through the woods and she peers over to her horse and whispers some elvish cool thing to the horse, and then it makes the horse go faster. The horse goes in a faster sprint after doing it, and it just reminded me of putting out a mushroom in Mario Kart.
Oh, I don't think I caught this at all. But she didn't actually feed the horse something. You're saying she just talked to the horse.
It was a metaphorical mushroom.
Okay, metaphorical mushroom. I mean, Galadriel leaned into that horse's ear and was like, "Hey, dummy, we're trying to catch that other horse." Or she said something really cool in Elvish, which was the wind moves at the swiftness of, I don't know. I'm not a writer. Halbrand comes in from the opposite direction, which is how directions work, and trips the horse in this cool scene that they show. Oh, there's a lot of sliding out of your saddle while riding a horse. That's the epitome of they're hey, you're a leader and a warrior if you could do these cool horse trick things. So he trips the horse, and the show does I feel like this is a note from the studio. They're hey, you have to show that horse get up and be fine, even though it was going 800 miles an hour, and we tripped it. No broken bones. No nothing. Even if it's an evil horse, we got to see that horse get up because people are going to be upset. Which is definitely not.
Ad.
What's that?
This was an ad from PETA.
Yeah.
He's don't hurt no horse.
Which, definitely not the same philosophy of Braveheart, where Braveheart was hey, let's show how many horses we can stab in the chest with spears. Which, those of you that love horses, go rewatch Braveheart. It'll hurt you. Halbrand knows Adar. Adar doesn't seem to remember him. I didn't know if this was a game that... No, it wasn't, because later on Adar's who are you? And Halbrand stops and then's turns and goes, she drowned. And then he walks out. And Adar's I don't think... Why is everyone ending conversations by saying she drowned? That doesn't make any sense. Galadriel spares Adar because Halbrand's about to run him through. And Galadriel's stop. You can't quench your thirst with seawater. And Halbrand's what are you talking about? I'm not even thirsty. The horse. I rode on a horse. I didn't run here. Anyways, he doesn't.
I get to call back to the earlier, right? Didn't she say that when they were having their thing about vengeance and back and forth, all that stuff? So,
sure.
But I think so. Adar kind of says like, "Did I cause someone you love pain?" And then he says like, "Is it a woman? Is it a child?" And I think they're trying to make us think that like, yes, Halbrand lost his family, kind of a thing. But I think this is all just MacGuffins. Like to me, this is just who Halbrand lost here is Morgoth and like the evil. Like this episode, I think specifically for me is just continuing to push the train that Halbrand is truly Sauron.
Okay.
And that's why he's mad at this guy, because, you know, he gives this little speech later that he killed Sauron, but maybe he killed like the idea of him or made him go back into hiding or whatever it was. But I feel like this is definitely a push towards that direction.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that. I don't know. I hate being wrong, so I'm not going to say who I think Sauron is, but I do like that when Adar's like, did I cause someone you love pain, like a woman or a child? Galadriel kind of like slides in and she's like, yeah, is there a woman? Or was there a woman? Or is that something? Are you guys done?
Do you feel there is a romantic relationship with them? I know they have a scene a little bit later. But...
Yeah. They're trying to push us to Haladriel land, which is...
Okay.
Did I do it right that time?
I like that, actually. I like adding on brand. I feel like we should trademark it.
Wait.
It is like a brand.
Oh, Haladriel brand? Wait, what did I say?
Well, you originally just said Haladriel, which was a good, it's like their Bennifer or Jennifer or what was the Ben Affleck?
I'm unfamiliar with those names. Never heard of them. Anyways, let's not digress into the Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez podcast that we started last week and have 75 episodes of. You can check that out by emailing us directly at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Just put the subject line Af Lopez. Is that, do you mix those parts of their names? I don't know.
I think that's what we did. Yeah.
Galadriel. Oh, we cut to Isildur's friends. I'm going to call him Valandil because I don't care. And Guantanamo, or whatever his name is. They're like, guess what, Isildur? Galadriel's taking out a special company to go hunt down orcs. And I got us jobs there. And Guantanamo's like, hey, you know what? I did enough stabbing for a lifetime, so I live here now. I'm just going to stay with these villagers and live here. And you're like, okay, cool. Otanamo, whatever your name is.
I kind of like that. Like, not everybody has to be like a battle-hardened warrior kind of thing. Like, he was in battle and realized, like, this is too much. I can't handle this kind of a thing. So I kind of like what they did there.
Yeah. I like that they made him a deserter and a coward. That was great. I hope he has fun in that town. Anyways, I did it. All right, Galadriel and Adar chat in a barn. It's kind of it's a cool scene. The two of them do a great job.
There's a lot of interesting cinematography, I think, in this sequence too, where like the twisted cameras, like everything is kind of shot at an angle, which I'm not sure exactly what they're going for. Maybe it's because they're doing the backstory. It's because of, I don't know, Adar's menacingness. They need the cameras to be sideways, but they don't do this kind of throughout in other Adar stuff. So, but either way, it looked kind of neat.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, and then they have like the light coming through the barn, so you get like that filtered light and shadow, and yeah, I don't know. I think you're just supposed to be like, they do some weird stuff here where you're either supposed to be like sympathetic towards Adar or like understand where he's coming from. Galadriel starts talking about the Uruk, I want to say, the twisted elves that were taken by Morgoth, the first orcs. I do appreciate Galadriel's not above waterboarding. She's like, listen, Patriot Act. I can do whatever I want from you in order to get what I want. And Sauron. Oh, this is where we get the conversation where Adar's like, listen, Sauron was a little bit too extreme for me. He was hurting my babies, and so I killed him. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Problem solved.
Yeah,
show over. Cancel episodes 7 and 8. We're good, everyone. We got him. Mission accomplished.
We get more...
Put the banner up. Patriot Act. Did I do it? Did I bring it around? All right, we're good.
But yeah, this is where we get more of like, orcs are not all bad, and like he's like the father to these orcs and all this jazz. And he kind of like lays out what Sauron's plan was, which is like the idea of like crafting power, just not of the flesh, but over the flesh. So it's interesting because I think this is a lot of the backstory that we wanted to know more about. Doesn't answer a lot of questions, but I think it helps point in certain directions.
Yeah. I just want to reiterate that during this conversation, Galadriel's awesome. She listens to his sad story and like his humanizing story, and then she's like, I'm going to kill you. And I think, Tom, we need strong leaders. I think we need strong leaders like this in power that are not afraid to kill sympathetic characters or just completely ignore their story and be like, I'm going to waterboard and then kill you. It was great. I loved it.
Well, okay, here's my gripe with this sequence. Like, great. I love the way she set this up. She even, like, after he gives his speech, she does her bit, and she's like, I'm going to kill your whole race, and I'm going to keep you alive, so that way you'll be the last one, and you'll see all the pain and suffering. And then he makes, like, one quippy line back at her, and then boom, she's immediately going to kill him. And then Halbrand has to come in to, like, stop her from killing the same guy. It's just, like, it kind of makes all that speech that she just said completely meaningless when she's going to go ahead and just... Oh, you said something mean to me. I'm going to stab you.
Sure. But he does make a great comment where he's like, oh, I guess the successor for Sauron was in your mirror or something like that. He makes the line like, if we were looking for a successor for him, we should look at you because you're evil. And then she's like, I'm not evil. I'm going to kill you. So, yeah, I'm with you. Haladriel and... Oh, no, I don't have to say and because it's both of them. Haladriel talk by a stream. All important things happen in gardens or streams in this show.
Mm-hmm. And they kind of thank each other for like pulling each other back because they both had, moments of weakness where they were going to murder this guy.
Yeah, they should have been like, wait, you wanted to murder him? I wanted to murder him. Let's go murder him together. And he has this, he's like fighting beside you. Galadriel was like... it felt so good, and she's like, I felt it too. And I was like, wait, what do we didn't even really see them fighting beside each other. I guess they went on a horse race together, but they came from opposite directions, so they weren't riding together. Is this love, Tom?
This, to me, is continuing to point towards Halbrand as Sauron, because I feel like this is more manipulation than it is anything else. I feel like if you kind of go back and think about all the stuff that Galadriel's kind of said to Halbrand when they were in Numenor about like who's using who kind of stuff, what Adar just said about kind of crafting the power over flesh. I think that's kind of what he's doing. He's trying to manipulate Galadriel into kind of being his like puppet, if you will. I think at one point he even says, I want to bind it to my very being, like a la the ring, like being able to bind his essence, his soul and everything into this ring to be able to control them. So I think this is still pointing me towards a direction of Halbrand being Secret Sauron.
Okay. Here's my issue with that theory is Halbrand did not want to go on this trip. He wanted to stay in Numenor.
That's what he told Galadriel. Like, I feel like all of this has been manipulation.
Okay, here's my... allow me to pull on this thread a bit. We see him alone in a room where he does not want to go on the... Like, he has the moment where he picks up his token of, like, knight... kingship. Yeah, his retainer. His retainer that says he should be king. Like, he has that, like, struggle alone. So, like, if he was, like, faking it, I don't feel like the show should have a scene where the guy is, like, because the only person he's faking out in that scene is the audience. And that shouldn't be how shows work. But...
it's a fair point.
You got the after party right. So, it's tough for me to argue with Master Detective Thomas. Timothy?
I do feel, though, I do think it's a good point, but I feel like what we've seen in like the writing so far this season, like, this could be a plot hole that they're just not picking up. Like, when he does drop that little like retainer bag and then picks it up, like, I do feel that was when that guard kind of told him, hey, the queen wants to see you. So you could argue there was another guy in that scene, and he's just kind of playing off like that he's struggling to make this decision. But again, I agree. I think it's a fair point, but if he does end up being Sauron, maybe it's just more the lazy writing category than anything.
We'll chalk it up to incompetence rather than malice. Sure. We get to see the blade again. She's like, oh, remember this dagger that was in like the first 2 episodes a lot? Guess what? It's back.
Okay, and this is what kills me. Like, she was told by Arondir, hey, go get this blade or this hilt, or he doesn't even say like, go get that like bag or whatever that he has because it's very, very important. It's extremely important. And, they show us the hilts in this, which we know is not the hilt, but they show the bag that she kind of wipes her blade off of to continue to let us know that she has it. Why is she not looking at it? Like, if this is that important, why are they not seeing what the importance of it is? Like, when she's all about, the evil and all the stuff going on, it would make perfect sense for her to peek and look at this and have her be, like, the one that has the reveal, as opposed to passing it off between, like, 5 more characters before we get it.
Sure. I don't know. I guess the assumption is it's, it's like mail. It's a federal crime in order to open someone's mail. Unless you have the Patriot Act on your side, which she probably should have shouted Patriot Act and opened it. What I thought they were going to do, because I was dumb, is I thought she was going to wipe the blood off her dagger, and then it was going to like seep in to the hilt, but it wasn't the hilt, so that doesn't make any sense. Can you draw the conclusion that it doesn't work with orc blood? Because nobody else has used it but humans that have red blood flowing through it. That's fair. I think she has some elf blood on that dagger, though, because that's what she held to Adar's throat.
Yeah.
Clearly has a... I don't... Wait, it all makes sense.
It was black.
What's that?
His was black, though.
His blood is black? Oh, because he's a first orc. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I don't see blood color. What makes even more sense is they're having a town feast. And I can only assume that the tables they've set up are propped up by dead bodies because they did not have enough time to clean out like all the dead bodies in town, because that stuff takes a while. So like if you look closely, the benches are just the bodies of orcs and humans.
They're sitting on them.
And they're like, oh, can you pass me and you got to move like a dead arm out of the way to slide the flagon of ale over. I don't know.
Maybe they just took all like the snakeskin armor off the orcs, and then they all the like vampire movies, they just completely disintegrate from the sun.
That's fair. Halbrand is anointed the king of the Southlands. Everyone cheers. They don't know who this guy is. They don't know if he's going to be a good king. They don't know if he went to king school. They don't know what his credentials are other than he tripped a horse, so he hates horses. They're like the king that was promised. Like, what if he's like, all right, as king, I am going to enact a lot of laws, all of you people that don't look like me. Like, what if he's like a super racist king? I don't know. We don't know anything about this guy, but we seem to be cheering because he's handsome and he has king hair. I don't know.
The only thing can be like the brand that he has on his retainer bag, right? Like, because, Bronwyn sees it. Yeah, I'm with you. It seems silly that the rest of the crowd seemingly immediately sees it, or maybe the scuttlebutt of them whispering to each other, everybody knows. Like, that is the thing that ties this guy to his lordship. And I guess the pull of the queen that kind of says he is legit kind of a deal. But yeah, it's these people they need a leader.
They just met the queen today. Like, they don't even know that she's queen. They're like, hey, look at...
But her armor is so cool.
That fish armor they're wearing over there. These sheeple just want to be led. That's what it is. They're just like, oh, someone lead us. And he's like, all right, guess what? You all have to give me 25% of your income. And they're like, wait, what? He's like, hey, you said I was king. Taxes. All right.
Promised.
I was promised. They're like, but his teeth are so straight from that retainer. Arondir and Galadriel and Bronwyn, they have a moment here where I'm like, wait, is Galadriel and Arondir, are they a thing? Is this a love triangle? Is this the most...
it's just the hopeless romantic in you. You see it everywhere.
I'm like Theo and Elendil and Otonomo and this love parallelogram. Galadriel gives the package, once again, to your point, without looking at it. She gives it to Arondir. It would be great if he had unwrapped it and it was a sandwich. He's like, oh man, I'm so hungry. Thank you. It's a turkey footlong with olives and yellow peppers and jalapenos and mayo and some oil and vinegar. I had Subway recently on my trip, and it was just incredible. So... don't at me if Subway is not something you don't like. I don't care. I love it. It was a whole.
But I'm with you.
long.
This is again this extra scene where Galadriel knows this is super important, is handing it back to this other guy who knows it's super important, and even like Arendir doesn't open this up. He's been holding onto this thing, like the shape of a hatchet versus the shape of this like really pointy hilt with all these things. He doesn't immediately know. Oh wait, hey, the weight is wrong, or hey, this does not feel like what I should have in my hand. It's silly. It's super silly.
Yep. I agree. Theo gives this weird, like, kind of ring of power, or like when you use the ring, you're then drawn to the power type thing about the hilt. He's like, when I had it, I had this taste of power. And Arendir's like, well, here's a sandwich. And there's a lot of rid yourself of it advice when Haladriel, I messed it up now. When Galadriel and Halbrand are talking, she's like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but rid yourself of it. And that's like some real good therapy. It's like, hey, stop being so sad. Just like I'd be an incredible therapist if that's all you had to say. Like, it's like, I don't care if your finger's broke. Rid yourself of the pain. You're fine. Rub some dirt on it. Drink some water. Take some Motrin. You're fine. And this is the same one. He's like, Theo's sad, and stepdad Arendir's like, listen, first off, don't call me dad, but rid yourself of it. You're fine. Here's a sandwich wrapped around a hatchet. I don't know. He gives this teenager a really evil weapon. He's like, hey, responsible teenager with your wispy mustache, take this thing that's super powerful. Just irresponsible, all of these adults.
Yeah, to think that, like, oh, we've got Adar, like, trapped, we've stopped these orcs, like, okay, this big piece of ominous tech that I cannot destroy with a hammer because I'm the most powerful in the world. Here you go, kid. You go throw it in a river somewhere, kind of a deal.
Yeah, he's like, if you're smart, give it to the Numenorians. They'll throw it in the sea. I'll be like, all right, that's fine.
However, I would at least argue that Theo finally
So
has
smart.
the wherewithal to be like, hey, wait a minute. This doesn't feel anything like that sword. Opens it up. Oh, it's a hatchet.
He's like, this is not what I ordered. There are olives on this. Send it back. Finds out it's a hatchet. Yep. Oh, snap. We cut to Waldrig, who is slowly becoming my favorite character in the whole show. He bloodies the blade. Then he turns out, Tom, it's a key. Oh, it's a key and a weapon because, this show told us. So, yeah.
The key thing, man. The key is just, it would have been cool if we find out this isn't a blade of Sauron. This is a key to do something else. And, like, Adar knew it, and he told Waldrig about it, and that's what we see. Why we had to have a character in the previous episode say, "Ooh, this has got to be a key," it's just so incredibly frustrating, because I think this would have been such a more powerful moment if you realized that's what this blade was for, as opposed to being told about it in the previous episode.
Yep. They think we dumb. All right. Speaking of dumb, actually, this was kind of cool. A dam opens that no one seems to know is there or how it operates. I don't know. Out of nowhere, this dam opens up, water pours out. But it's more important that we cut from there and we have a little father-son talk where Elendil and Isildur are talking about emotional connections to horses and how the horses love their riders. I don't know. Tom, you're a horseman. Talk to me about this moment. Why it meant so much to you.
Is there lore in this? Is there lore in this, by the way, from Lord of the Rings about, like, horses being able to, like, sense their rider and establishing this unbreakable bond, or is that just kind of a show thing?
I'm gonna go with show thing, but it could. I mean, it's not something that's like prevalent in Lord of the Rings.
Okay, but it was funny because, like, I just recently rewatched the Avatar. I was one of the many that repaid the money to go see it in 3D again when they rebrought it back into theaters. But they definitely had the same concept here about creating this unbreakable bond with this, beast or whatever. But it was a little bit less creepy because it didn't have the weird tentacle thing they had to connect to the horse.
Yeah. Way to quietly brag that you've got the rewatch Avatar in 3D money that you're just throwing around. Thanks, Tom. Rest of us over here trying to find water in the desert. You're going back to see Avatar another time. Speaking of water in the desert, there are water explosions everywhere. That's the only way I can describe these. Mm-hmm. Water is exploding.
Well, this is where we get like the idea of what Adar and all the orcs were doing. They were building all these tunnels and stuff to be able to create this like chain reaction from the dam, which I think is kind of cool. And they eventually kind of cut to Adar, who's like, still chained up to the post in the barn, puts his ear to the floor to listen to the water go. Cool sequence. And then like kind of towards the end, it like once we get all this, explosions and everything happening, it just cuts back to the barn and Adar's gone. So apparently Adar is like a magician, a Houdini as well.
Sure.
He can just get out of these chains like by himself. I thought that was kind of silly. I'm glad we're going to see more Adar and he's not going to be like a captive for much longer. But again, super silly that he just vanished for no reason.
I disagree. I think the least surprising thing is that a guy that dresses, has the hair of, and looks like Adar has some sort of magician powers. He looks like David Blaine if David Blaine had long hair and looked like Adar. Anyways, water meets magma. Magma creates Mount Doom, which blocks out the sun. And so I actually did like all this. It creates Udun, which is the title of the episode, which is apparently a valley in Mordor. And then we get all the smoke and fire and Galadriel. Man, Galadriel's reaction time on this, real slow. I guess she's just like, hey, like anything I do here isn't going to work out. So she's just like, take me now, Lord. Like, let the fire engulf me. Which, this was all really cool in terms of looking, but also maybe Galadriel's not even trying to help people. She's just like, listen, you guys are all dumb. This is lava. And now it was magma. Now it's lava. I don't have time to explain to you. And she's dead.
I'm interested to see how they're going to do this in the next episode, because we've seen from the trailers and everything that there's like a sequence where it's like just red everywhere and she's covered in soot and ash, and like it's going to be visually super neat, but there's nowhere these people could have gone to be able to survive like a wall of fiery magma. Like this isn't just smoke. This is death coming right at them. And
Sure.
You can maybe have the argument that Galadriel can somehow survive it, but everybody else, I don't know how they're going to do it.
Right.
But super cool sequence. And I don't even know if I thought or saw this kind of coming with the idea of taking, and I kind of did some research afterwards. Like the showrunner said, like, which you've mentioned when we did the rewatch of the Lord of the Rings movies, is that a huge theme of Tolkien is like that environmentalism and like the way machines and industrialization kind of destroys the land. So I thought it was a cool idea of taking what is this beautiful mountain in the background in these Southlands and then ultimately like using industry and everything to just destroy nature and make it, create Mount Doom, create Mordor. The whole sequence was just super, super cool, and I did not see it coming.
Right. Well, I think, isn't the point here that he's creating so much smoke now that the orcs can live without, like, it's blocking out the sun? Is that not, like, what this master plan was? It's funny, I don't feel like they explain everything else, but this, and maybe they will in other episodes, but this was my understanding of Adar's master plan was, hey, if I dig all these tunnels, I shoot water into magma, it's going to erupt a volcano, which is then going to cloud this whole area so that the orcs can move freely during the day, because also they got rid of all the garlic.
But that's the thing, right? In the movies, like Mordor, Mount Doom, like it's always covered in darkness, right? Like that's a deal. So yeah, the idea that the magic is, or the mountain is kind of magical in that sense, where it just keeps everything kind of coated in this darkness. So that makes more sense with the previous sequence that he said later about the guy not being able to like enjoy sun anymore and blisters him. Give him one more blister before the sun gets blotted out.
Yeah, that poor guy with his...
I do. So I had to look this up afterwards, that there's actually some science involved in this with the idea of all this water kind of hitting magma to create this explosion. So I looked this up and I'm just kind of read it verbatim, but I think it's kind of cool. So violent volcanic eruptions occur in large part because water is involved. The water is dissolved in the magma. The magma rises to the surface. The water makes bubbles that turn into steam, and the steam and the water expand so rapidly that they basically blow the magma apart. That stuff piles up near the central vent, and that's what makes a big volcano. So I think it's kind of cool that they actually kind of did their research about how they can make a realistic volcano and didn't just kind of magic it like they could have done in this world.
Sure.
So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And I was sad that they cut out that scene where Adar is standing around the papier-mâché volcano and all the orcs are standing around him, and he's got a box of Arm & Hammer, and then he pours in the vinegar, and then he's like, all right, guys, and then we're going to do the damp. No, it would be the other way. He puts all the Arm & Hammer. Are we allowed to talk about Arm & Hammer since that guy got canceled?
It's Sauron and Hammer.
Sauron and Hammer. We dump all that baking soda into the papier-mâché volcano, and the orcs are like... And he's like, wait. And then he takes the vinegar and he pours it in. He's like, this is what's going to happen when we shove the key in. And the orcs are like, nem pat. And then it bubbles out and everything smells like vinegar. So I was sad that they cut that scene because I feel like that would have tied this all together. But I did really like this episode. I am interested to see... I don't know. I feel like everything very slowly worked its way up to an episode that was just all action, which I'm not going to complain about now that we're here. But I'm interested to see what they do with 7 and 8. I guess we'll find out very quickly since we're doing this episode so much later. But I did. This was my favorite episode by far.
Yeah, I agree. They did a lot of setup, and it was a very, very slow moving pace to get to here. But I think a lot of the stuff paid off. We had a lot of criticism throughout this pod because I do think there's still some kind of silly writing and moments that kind of go on. But overall, the story that they're telling, I still think is fun. There's still some fun mystery that we can kind of unravel. And being done in the 6th episode, I think is unique. You figure a big battle-y kind of episode, these usually happen the penultimate one, to be able to set up what they want to do with their finale. So we still have 2 more. Everything I've seen from I haven't watched trailers for it, but from social media, it sounds like episode 7 might be where they reveal who the evil is. So
really?
I wonder if we are going to get a Sauron reveal. Yeah. Okay. So we'll see.
I assumed we were going to go back to the Harfoots since we didn't get any of them in this episode, and it was just going to be a really cool Harfoot episode, and then
no dwarves,
volcano erupting in the background. But no, I'm interested. I'm ready to watch the last 2. Tom, this is the point in the podcast where we thank you for joining us, and also we talk about another piece of media that we have been enjoying? Yeah. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Don't say Avatar.
We've watched many of this... No, I won't say Avatar, although it was kind of fun. No, but a show that me and my wife absolutely love on Netflix that just recently came back for a couple additional episodes is Nailed It. It's a cake baking show that makes people bake stuff that have no business baking and decorating things, and they have them try to do it in under an hour when these things are probably actually the legit ones that look beautiful or made in multiple hours. It is a blast. It is hilarious. Couldn't recommend it more. And the most recent ones they did were tie-ins to Netflix shows, kind of had Halloween vibes. So give it a go. You'll have a great time.
Wonderful. Yeah, you've made me watch some of those episodes, and it is fun. The hosts, do they still do guests judges?
Yeah, so hosted by Nicole Byer, but they usually have comedians or other judges kind of come on. And this one, because they did Netflix shows, they had stars from those Netflix shows come on. So I think one was from Cobra Kai, another was from the Umbrella Academy. So a lot of fun. That's
cool. Yeah, I think the one you made me watch was with Jason Mantzoukas, which was a good time.
Yes, it's fantastic.
I would like to recommend 2 Netflix comedy specials that maybe I've talked about before, but I don't remember. Nate Bargatze is a comedian. He's got The Greatest Average American is one of his, and then I think the other one is The Tennessee Kid. He is very funny. It's clean, and it's just a lot of fun. The reason I'm bringing this up is have been on a camping trip this week and didn't have obviously television, but was able to occasionally get podcasts and realize that he does a podcast called the Nateland Podcast, and it's very funny. It's a group of 3 or 4 Southern comedians, and Nate Bargatze is super nice, and admittedly, I'm not trying to be mean. He is not. He's not. Not the smartest is not the right way of putting this, but he, whenever he's trying to read something, Anyways, it's very funny. It's clean. It's a good time. Give Nate Bargatze a go in one way or the other, either his podcast or his Netflix specials, which are a lot of fun.
Nice.
But if you have questions or comments, if you've got stuff you'd like for us to discuss as we go into the end of this season, you can reach out to us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Tom has the other social media stuff. We do enjoy those of you that engage. I got shouted at, I think, on Twitter for not being around, which I see those comments. I appreciate them. But it is kind of nice to unwind and unplug, and that's what I got to do this week. So thank you for your patience. But Tom, what are our other things that people can reach out to us on?
Yeah, reach us on Twitter at Team Binge. Carry on the conversation there. And then we also post occasionally on Instagram at Team Binge Podcast. So reach us there. Always fun time engaging with you guys, and excited for the last two here. It's been a ride, but it's been an enjoyable ride.
Yeah, it has been. And as this one comes to a close, and I don't believe we're going to get Ted Lasso Season 3 right away, Tom and I will be searching for what's next. And so if you have ideas on that, or you have a show you think that, I think at this point you probably get Tom and I's what we like and what we don't like. He likes Avatar, and I like Con Air. Whatever you've got that's in the middle of those two things, send it to us, and we'll give it a go. But we appreciate you listening. I have been Julian.
And I've been Tom. Till next time, everybody.